sustainable ways to manage these shared water resources, now that we know that we share them. So management of shared water resources is poor due to weak legal frameworks, as you will find out, and even from the books that the booklets that you are receiving just from some of the officers, is that you will realize that there is no legal framework to that. So this leads to poor utilization of these available resources. So despite these challenges, shared water resources in Kenya, and specifically in the two river basins of Tana and Athi, presents opportunities on how these resources could be managed wisely and sustainably. Since natural resources do not remain within jurisdictional boundaries, that means you cannot say it can only be used from this point to this, it flows naturally. So because that is the case, then environmental issues are of mutual concern. Yeah? So that means that we need frameworks that allow or ensure that we manage these shared ecosystems, but they are not there in the meantime. So that means we need to find ways to have those frameworks in place. So through consultations with communities and county and national stakeholders, Jesuit Hakimani Center has been working on a policy framework for the management of these inter-county shared water ecosystems in the two river basins of River Athi and River Tana basins. So how have we gotten to the point where we are saying perhaps there is need for this framework? When we first started the Climate Smart Governance Project, we were doing this in Kilifi and Garissa counties. As we had conversations with the communities down, they kept asking us, you are coming to give us this conversation, and the people who sit at the source of the water do not know the plight that we go through because of the water that we both share. And so that prompted us to go ahead and follow up and just find out, what do the upstream people think about, do they actually even know they share the water? And if they know, what are they doing to make sure that this water gets to the downstream counties clean and safe also for their use? So the process, once we began that, we found out that upstream counties of the river basins, they actually recognize that they share these common water resources with the downstream. So at least both of them spoke a common language, that upstream know that this water doesn't just belong to their jurisdiction, but it flows down. And if it flows down, they know there are people downstream who will need this water. And so that was one of the first things that the report shows. The second one is that the upstream and downstream counties, they acknowledge that there is an increase in tensions and conflict over shared water ecosystems across and within the river basins. This means that they know the tensions are between the upstream and downstream. Not only that, but also the upstream counties, or even within the county itself, they have their tensions that are cropping up. So that was the second thing that came up. The third one, and the last one, is this, is that the parties downstream no decrease in water quantity and quality due to over-obstruction by upstream communities and pollution of water at point and non-point sources respectively. So if that is the case, if there is over-obstruction up and there is pollution along the way, it means the water that gets to the downstream counties is polluted and so unfit for consumption. And if that is the case, it also, they found out, they indicated that the upstream and downstream counties then would require some sort of a policy framework for the management of these shared ecosystems. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is anchored on SDG 6 on clean water and sanitation that seeks to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. So according to this goal under SDG 6 is that protection and restoration of water-related ecosystems and integrated water resources management through transboundary cooperation is essential. So Jesuit Hakimani went back. We settled on SDG 6 and what it says about transboundary cooperation when it comes to water ecosystems. And this is where we started the conversation coming from the communities downstream in Garissa and Kilifi. And over time, we have engaged with all the 14 counties that Athi River and Tana River basins traverse. And out of that now, ladies and gentlemen, as you'll see in your booklets, from around pages 10, 11 there, those are some of the things that the stakeholders we've met so far. And these stakeholders, women, youth, religious leaders, people living with disabilities, national and county technical teams. Those are some of the things they propose that could be considered and should actually go into a policy framework that would guide these inter-county shared water ecosystems. And we are not limiting ourselves to Athi and River Tana counties, basins. It's just that when you are starting a conversation, you can only start from somewhere. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite our Deputy Director to come and take us through slightly the components that are within that booklet on what the proposed policy has and why we are actually seated here. Thank you very much and welcome.
Good morning once more. So this is one piece of sharing, so all protocol have been already observed, and I cannot take or add anything from there. We have heard about the problems and the challenges between upstream counties and downstream counties. And when we say like that, we are talking about the river ecosystem of the river and Tana River. Climate change is a reality, and it is hitting Kenya in a very hard way. So what Nelly just described were some of the problems that Akimani, through the support of its partners, development partners, who are here, and we'll mention them at the end of this session, that the two counties of Kilifi and Garissa told us, go up. And so we would like to begin a conversation. And Akimani is proposing a policy document here whereby we could discuss about it today. You could validate some of the findings that we had. So we are proposing a conversation that will lead to a very good policy over climate governance, over the sharing of natural resources, and also for us, especially in Akimani, our entry point to the challenges of climate change was water access, such that our people, especially in those hard-hit areas, in the ASAL areas and the coastal areas, they can get water. What are the objectives of this policy framework we are suggesting? The policy framework is for the management of inter-county shared water ecosystems. So we'd like to begin a conversation from one part of the country, and we hope for it to move all over the country. First, our objective is to protect and safeguard upstream catchment areas and downstream river basins. What we are hoping to hear more is environmental integrity and responsibility. The two ecosystems are very delicate. The second objective, we would also like to propose a peaceful way of solving inter-county and inter-ethnic structural conflicts over the natural water resource. And this we take justification from the preamble of the Constitution of Kenya, a part which says we are determined as a country to live in peace and unity as one indivisible nation. ASAL counties, they control almost 80% of the land mass of this country. But they also don't have water. The coastal area also suffer from lack of water and the effects of climate change. So the preamble to the Kenyan Constitution that is inviting every Kenyan that we are determined to live in peace and unity as one indivisible nation means that let us resolve the inter-county and inter-ethnic structural conflicts amicably. It can be done. To give a few examples, the livestock keepers or herders from Garissa, when it is very dry, they have moved into Kitui County. And the stories we hear and the people we have met, people run away. Because when the livestock keepers come, they want their livestock to get pasture. It has also happened recently in Taita. And it is happening also between counties. Kajiado against Machakos and Makueni on one side. Nairobi against Muranga against Nairobi. Kirinyaga against Embu with River Thiba. So we would like that this conversation will make our country and propose a policy whereby we could solve some of this inter-county and inter-ethnic structural conflict over resources in an amicable way. And our politicians and our parliamentarians will help us if, and we are proposing they take this up and then create a law that will control inter-county water sharing framework. The third objective, we would like to build resilient communities because of the effect of climate change and inter-county relationship along the two water ecosystem. Here we are talking about climate governance. This country already has an act of climate governance, and we are happy for it. The problem is the uptake by other counties to domesticate the National Climate Act of 2016. And we'll share more the challenges, what's happening. The last one, we would like to ensure access to clean, safe, and adequate water for urban residents and rural dwellers. This is in conformity to the Bill of Rights. Article 43D. You know, when you do projects, you almost become like a lawyer, but I know there are lawyers here and our lawyer is around, so we will pretend, but the owners will come and tell us exactly. But when we realize, we said, well, this is a right. It's not a charity. So why did we call you then? Why did we advertise? We advertised for you to come here and be with us, for one thing, to validate the findings from the stakeholders who live in upstream and downstream the counties where River Adi and Tana River Basin, Tana River passes through. We have been with them, conversing with them, the MCAs, the women MCAs, the youth, community leaders, religious leaders. We have been with them for almost 1.5 years. So we'd like you to validate some of those findings. We called you here also to review what we are proposing. We are proposing a framework with the 4 objectives that I just mentioned. So please be generous with your comments. Be generous with your criticisms. Poke holes, strengthen it. Let us discuss, let us start a conversation. And let us listen also to the experts amongst us who can help us, so that in the end, we have good climate governance. We also have, people will have a good environment, because our constitution guarantees us to a clean and healthy environment. And also, we have access to clean water, clean, safe, and adequate water. The people downstream in Makueni and in Taita, and especially even in Machakos, they cannot drink the water from the river here. Why? Because those of us who live in Nairobi, we pollute it. If you look at that river, it is not a river. I'm sorry to say, it is a sewage. But it can be clean. The late Michuki showed us. We have institutions in our country. We have so many laws, and I feel bad that in one sense as Akiman we are proposing a policy, yet there are so many other policies. Maybe the issue should be, why do we not as a country implement what we have? And finally, we would like you to deliberate the way forward regarding the strategies that we have suggested, so that we can live in peace and in harmony as we sang. And finally, before I sit, I would like really to give special vote of thanks to the Deepening Democracy team that is here. They are part of the Development Alternative Initiative, and they are led by Mr. Francis, who is here with us. Also like to give special thanks and special vote to DFID or the UK Aid for supporting Akimani in this great endeavor so that we can start a conversation to make our country a better place to live. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Nelly and the Deputy Director. Can we give them a good clap? Yeah, I think what I was able to take from Nelly and her colleague is that we need to manage resources that we have, we need to share what we have, and we also need to maintain what we have. So the fact that this research was done in Kilifi and Garissa, I think we are all coming from different counties, isn't it? So imagine that you are coming from Garissa and imagine that you are coming from Kilifi, because the issues, I think, are the same across the board. So we are happy to hear that we are here to validate the findings, to review what has been proposed, and also to come up with way forward so that it's not just a conference that ends here. Is that so? So allow me now to call Mr. Ayua Francis, who made it possible for this research. Through his organization, it was possible to do this research. So we really thank you, Mr. Ayua, and your organization. So you may want to share with us something small. Thank you. Can we help welcome you, Dr.
Thank you, Beatrice. My Lordship Bishop Rotich, my Lordship Bishop Obala, and in the spirit of ecumenism which I see in the room, I would like to also recognize Reverend Kariuki and Sheikh Hamza, Dr. Mukua, friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Now, I was a bit unsure what I would begin with so that I could keep your attention, because most of the stuff I talk about on managing projects tends to be a bit boring. But because Dr. Mukua has set us on a very good path, let me now disclose that until he talked about that river and the bathing, I wasn't sure whether we were age mates. One of the things that we asked Jesuit Akimani Center for was not his birth certificate, so I wasn't sure whether we were age mates. But now I'm glad I am. And I'm also glad that we share the same heritage. So allow me to spend a bit of time on that distraction, and then we'll get back to the issues that I need to talk about. So like Dr. Mukua, I also bathed in a river. I like to tell my friends when we have time for extended lunch that I like to begin my lunch with soup because I come from a community where you don't eat on an empty stomach. And that same ingrained belief applies also to how we bathed as little boys. What was the use of bathing if you are not dirty? So the trip to the river would be undertaken with a jerrycan in hand. We would put our clothes on the stone, and then we would take water in the jerrycan. I come from a part of Huisero, which is very close to the border with Gem. What separates us is that river, and there's a bit of a hill on this side and a hill on the other. And that hill, I remember it with very fond memories, because that's where we poured the water. Are you with me, ladies and gentlemen? What we did with the water is what made my childhood very joyful. Our clothes were on the stones. So we poured the water downhill, and we slid downhill in our birthday suits. Having sufficiently made ourselves dirty, we then bathed before we went home. I'm sure there's lots of interesting stories that each of us could tell around these shared resources. The story of birthing in the river, I think, is just one of the many metaphors. In our case, actually, one of the things I almost forgot is that the lady is birthed upstream. So you might then wonder whether the men downstream were birthing. Why we believed we were birthing is something Nelly mentioned when, Nelly mentioned when she was talking. There was a massive wetland between the upstream birthers and the downstream birthers, which helped to clean the water before it arrived for the men to bathe. So we had no doubt that the water was clean. In fact, some of my colleagues drank that water, and they didn't have any diseases. And it was ladies first. Thank you. Okay, on a more serious note, I work for DAI's Deepening Democracy program. Some people pronounce it as DAI. We've been implementing this program since July of 2016. The funding, as Dr. Mokua mentioned, comes from the UK's Department for International Development. And the aim of the program is to make Kenyan governance more inclusive and accountable. Inclusion is about making sure that the spaces in which we exercise governance, make decisions, and so on, are available to both men and women, the aged and the youth, people with disabilities and people who are abled, that it's going to be a truly open space in which all of us, because of the privilege of life, can actually achieve what we have as aspirations. In terms of the way we've worked, we have worked in what we call 4 work streams. There's the election support work, which was very early. In fact, it began before we took over the program as a steward, because with an election coming in 2017, DFID actually issued some elections-related grants, as well as one climate change governance grant before we came on board. And that support included support to IEBC as well. The other work stream is a work stream we call Accountable Service Delivery, where we are supporting a number of civil society organizations to engage, chiefly with the counties, on a number of service delivery areas of importance at the local level that will move this country forward. It is actually in this work stream where the heart of the program rests, because good governance will not come by citizens voting and then going home to continue with their business. Good governance will come as a result of, amongst other things, those who vote also holding their leaders accountable and engaging them on the pursuit of their aspirations. The third work stream, under which the support to Jesuit Akimani falls, is climate change governance. We've got some money from the International Climate Fund that was also channeled through our program to support that work. And then lastly, we are also doing some support to public oversight institutions. Chiefly, it's been the Office of the Auditor General, trying to help them achieve audit efficiency, as well as make sure that the work they do as auditors is also guided by certain ethical considerations. And then we've got about 7 county assemblies, as well as the County Assemblies Forum that we are also supporting, because they need to exercise their oversight roles well for the country to function like the Constitution intends it to. On our part, we are very pleased that we have this partnership with JHC, as my colleagues call it, because from the days when we had the conversations in Naivasha with a number of other prospective grantees, and talked about the nature of the design process, the political economy analysis, and so on, we have seen an organization that, on behalf of myself and my colleagues, I can say is a trusted partner. The implementation has proceeded very well, without drama. And we are actually very proud of them. In meetings, including one that we had last Friday, we actually showcased JHC as one of our successes. So to see the work not only begin from Kilifi and Garissa, where they were trying to come up with a framework for supporting access to water as a shared resource, now mature to the point where there are actually some policy propositions on the table, which are not only feeding into climate smart water governance policy discourse at the national level, but also in turn feeding into the broader discourse of smart governance is actually a very heartwarming thing indeed. In fact, Dr. Mukua, I'll have you know that until I saw your invitation and the program, I had never heard this term smart governance. Yet I am a governance practitioner of not, I like to think. I've been doing this work for about 20 years now and still counting. So as you can imagine, I then said, before I come to this meeting, I need to go and Google and find out what this smart governance is about. It's actually a very good idea. I was surprised to learn that it's actually not very new. It's been around for a while, but we don't know everything. So the fact that we are now gathered here to not only look at the evidence that is coming from Kilifi and Garissa, but to also look at that through the lenses of how technology can work for the manner in which we make decisions and the manner in which we plan for what Father Rotich reminds us is a heritage from our Maker is actually a good thing. And that this discourse is part of the discourses on how to make service delivery work for citizens, as well as how to make Kenya more democratic, is actually an enterprise that I am sure we all share as a common aspiration. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being with you. If it wasn't for the fact that my program is now going through a midterm review and things are a bit hectic back at the office, my colleagues know that I like sometimes to just sit in and also absorb, be part of the discourse and learn a few things. I'm not going to be able to do that this time round, but my colleague Jonesmas Sanga. Jonesmas, where are you? Yeah, Jonesmas is here and will be here till the end. So he's the one who will bring the good news back to the office. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention and I wish you fruitful deliberations.
Yeah, Francis, thank you very much for your input. I think I really want to share in your statement. I think sometimes some of us, we get money from donors and we don't actually do what the donors want. We sit under a tree and we imagine activities, and we also sit under a tree and we imagine a report, isn't it? It has happened in some cases. So this is a true story of what the money that you gave has actually done. So we thank you so much, brother, also, and your institute. Now, I take this opportunity now to invite Reverend Charles from SEK, Charles Kariuki from SEK, to share with us also briefly on this topic on smart governance. Karibu sana, Reverend Kariuki. Let's welcome him properly.
Good morning. My Lord Bishops and all the protocols observed. It is indeed a great morning where we are discussing this and possibly reflect on what we can be able to do together and was told of this conference yesterday, and I quickly agreed to come because of how dear I hold this country. Because I keep thinking that one of the things that will happen when we go to heaven is to be asked specific roles that we did, which would bring back the kingdom of God as it is. I work for the Anglican Church of Kenya here in Nairobi. The Anglican Church is has a devolved structure. So those of us who serve in Nairobi unless you ask to be moved out. And I've been around for the last 19 years as a priest with the Anglican Church of Kenya. And my current station is in South Bay, where I have been since 2010 to date. I also possibly need to say that I'm also a student at Catholic University of Eastern Africa. I'm doing my master's in strategic management, winding up that program. So I'm a student. So I have a very good relationship with the Catholic Church. Because I've been a student from 2017 to date. I still trust God that I'm going to graduate later in the year. And so pray with me and pray for me so that I may be able to do that. I'm told to give a reflection on reclaiming Mother Earth, a religious perspective. And when I started thinking about this, the first thing that came to my mind was this question: are we the first people to do some rebuilding? And the answer is no. Because Nehemiah did it. After the children of Israel were taken to Babylon, and they stayed there for 70 years. Those who read the scriptures know that when they came back, there was a problem. And there was so much that was supposed to be done. And God had to use somebody. And so we are gathered here so that possibly with such kind of backgrounds, we may think of, is it possible? I've always subscribed to a school of thought which says we have everything for our need, but not everything for our greed. We have everything for our need, and we don't have everything for our greed. But back to the book of Nehemiah, there are three overarching themes in that book. One, God's provision. He constantly provided ways for Nehemiah to achieve his work. And the second thought is God's protection. He protected Nehemiah and the Israelites from harm. And the third one is God's promise. God promised Israel that a mighty work would be done through their people, and this rebuilding of Jerusalem was part of God's plan for Christ to come to the world. I quickly thought of some cities which have been built. One of it is Chicago. The Great Chicago's fire in 1871. There was the rebuilding of the great city. San Francisco with a great earthquake in 1906, and the Dresden (14b). But the guy was asking, who knows whether it is for such a time that you have been made a queen? And I think with that we can ask ourselves, what are the specific roles, however small or big, in our situations that we can do so that we may be able to be the agents. And one of the things that I keep thinking in my mind are scriptures in the book of in the book of Matthew chapter 5, the sermon, the Sermon on the Mount. And in chapter 5, verse 14 to 16, two things are highlighted very well. And Jesus uses the metaphor and he says, you are the light of the world. And then he says, you are the salt of the world. And those scriptures helps us to know that we have a role. Where I do the pastoral work, I keep telling the congregation that the salt has never wished to be food. The salt has always desired to remain the salt. Praise the Lord. Because some of us are actually praised as the salt of the world, but looking across, we wish to be something else. And every time we wish to be something else, we actually stop contributing positively to the well-being of our society because of what we think we should be. But I want to say again that the salt has never wished to be the food. And the salt is fully aware that food will always look for the salt. Food will always look for the salt. I know the nutritionist could be in the house. There's a lot of stories that we read and hear about whether to take salt or not. But I come to confirm that for a fact that our bodies need salt as we take the food. The discussions about the quantities, we can always handle it in another forum. But for us to be the people of God, and we are dealing with rebuilding the Mother Earth, the religious perspective, we need to think about Ezra. Even as we prepare, we need to think how we seek the law of the Lord and also to do it. And we get this from the book of Ezra, chapter 7 and verse 10. Again, back to the book of Nehemiah, we must pray about this. And just like Nehemiah, it is not praying throughout until Christ found us praying. It's just to pray for direction and rise up to the occasion. This year I had an opportunity to drive around because some of my members do farming using Earth River, and it is painful for the narration of the losses that they have gone through because of some factories releasing bad water And after the plants that were on their farms, they all dried up. And one of my members had actually done farming to a tune of 8 acres. And he lost all the French beans. And that was their source of employment. And they have a house that they pay here in Nairobi. But close to at the river where they were doing this, at the river by then was completely dry. And the thought of where did we go wrong could not depart from my head. And that is true. That some of the problems that we are currently in are man and woman made. And it is so because of what I had indicated in the beginning, that we have everything for our need, but not everything for our greed. Friends, sometimes I think of if I live in this city and everybody is told to vacate, and I'm left with all the houses in Nairobi, and whether it will bring any meaning to my own life. And my considered opinion is that it will not. Because the city becomes the city as it is when all of us have lived together and have grown together and have appreciated the purpose of sharing the resources that we all have. Nehemiah wept. He moaned. He fasted. And he prayed before God. And he rose up to the occasion and said, Lord, send me. Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8 says, whom shall we send? Who shall go for us? And I think that those of us who are gathered in this hall, we have the capacity to rise up from this day and possibly reading Ephesians 5:16, which says that we redeem time, for the days that we are living in are evil, and we can go out with a message that the resources that we have, we can share them and share them well, without showing the greed that some of us have shown in the past. And I think we can move out to a hurting community, and possibly with the words of Francis of Assisi, that we go out as commissioners for Christ. From 2012 to 2016, I was the chairman. I served for 2 terms as the chairman of the National Council of Churches here in Nairobi County. And the current GS, Canon Karanja, would get out opportunities where he's invited, but because he cannot honor the invitation, he used to tell me, just Charles, go on my behalf. And when I go there, I will not show up as Charles. I'll tell them that I'm here to represent the General Secretary of NCCK. And I'll be handled from that point, not as the Charles they know, but as the General Secretary representative. Friends, how many times have we walked out, and when we ask who we are, we say, we are here to represent Christ. So that from that time, people may handle us as much. Some of the things that I have been doing at my parish level, so that I may be able to bring a difference, are the things that I want to highlight, even as we think about this. Number one, I've been reminding of my members that they have an opportunity to harvest water when it rains. My own experience, just like the beautiful experiences that we had at the preamble, is that rainwater is sweeter than the pumped water. I think that's me. And so every time I have an opportunity to actually take water and I'm told this is water which has been harvested from the rain, I will quickly actually ask for a drink because I find it sweeter and better. And I'm also aware that some people have suffered from waterborne diseases because of us who are people of God getting an opportunity to take through the process of just making sure that the water is clean. A few of us are a bit careless, and I think at one point in Nairobi, because I've been in Nairobi for the last 27 years, I think somebody gave us chalk. It looked like the water has been cleaned. But all of us have an opportunity to harvest water. When I move around and I see the uncountable car wash, which I take my vehicle also for washing, I keep wondering where do these people get water when my house has no water? But that tells you something about the water. And possibly within the sharing, we can persuade the county assemblies to enact laws which will help us, possibly for compulsory, with compulsory urge that everybody must put a gutter on top of their houses, and particularly those roofs which has iron sheets, and people are told to harvest water. That's one. Number two, in every baptism that I do, I persuade my members to plant trees as a practical aspect on caring for this environment. And so where I serve in South B, the compound is becoming bushy every time. Because every time I organize for baptism, I make sure that my staff have done the digging of the ground. And we have bought with our pet cash seedlings so that during the baptism day, after the baptism, everybody goes out within the compound to go and plant trees. After they do that, I tell them, those are your trees. Please watch over them. That's about baptism. Think of encouraging families when they are saying they're bidding farewell to their beloved ones during the funeral services in our villages, to encourage them to plant trees as an occasion to remember. The urge I have about this is because I think I've gone to do the unveiling of the cross many times, and I have found that within the neighborhood where those graves were dug many years back, there's a lot of neglect. But if possible, we planted trees around that place. That becomes something very good. And possibly in future, when people are looking for firewood, they'll be able, out of the cuttings and the pruning, they'll be able to have the trees available for firewood without completely messing up with the ecosystem. Think of when our bishops come for confirmations, where we urge the candidates for confirmation to also go out and plant trees, the parents and the godparents to also go out, not only to plant trees, but with the message of making sure that we have a new dawn as a country. And that is it. And friends, if one time we must stand before God and answer the things that we did, and particularly to the area of environment, I think it will be very hard for some of us, very, very hard, because of the nothingness or the thing that we did at 0%, yet we had opportunities to do that. I come from Thika, and we, just like my two speakers, we used to go to the river to do a few things. But one of the things that I remember, which sometimes make me miss the village, is when wildlife would come and make sure that they have killed several hippos, because they are destroying, of course, food. But the community would have meat for a whole week, eating meat, not because you went to the shop and bought the meat, but because a hippo has been killed and there's enough meat for everybody. You almost go to every home and immediately they tell you to sit down and eat. You actually remember they're just about to share with you some meat from hippo, and you quickly say, no, even this morning, that's what possibly we shared part of breakfast. And that kind of satisfaction made the community to be quite generous to one another, because of subscribing to a thought that we need to live as one. So with those remarks, I think we need to remember, as I cross, that some of our Christians are sitting in parliament, both in the national parliament, in the Senate, and in the national assemblies. And they sit in our congregations, and we minister to them every day. I think all of them can be invited for this move, and we can make a difference. And we can go out and help people live a better life. My former Archbishop, the late Getari, when she was the Bishop of Kirinyaga, not once or twice that he did meetings as people fought for the little water from Viva, even as they did irrigation in Moya. He did it, and it was good. My challenge is that we want to do it. Let us not make it as a one-season conversation, but we make it as a conversation for all of us, possibly to the rest of our lives. Thank you very much.
Another clap for Reverend. Thank you very much, Reverend Karaoke. I think we have listened and we have learned something from you. We have learned that the salt will never wish to be, and the food will always desire to have salt. So we are happy that you've really stressed on waste management, and I think all of us, we have a role in that area, as me, as you, as we, as the country, and even as the whole world, because we may do what we need to do as Kenyans, but what do we get from the West? What are they doing that also making impact on what we are suffering from? So I think we are all called upon to take up our roles. And the Reverend has also taught us on what we can do. Let us assume that we are his congregants today, isn't it? So what should we do as us when we live here? Planting trees is very, very easy for all of us to do. We are all confirmed, and we all go for those confirmations. I think what he has shared is what we normally come across every day, and it's something that we can be able to do. So with that, let us once again thank him for sharing with us. Yeah, now it's my pleasure to call upon Right Reverend Bishop John Obala Owa, who is the Bishop of Ngong Diocese, and is also the Vice Chairman of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops. But today he's here in his own capacity as the Chairman of the Catholic Justice and Peace Commission. Let us welcome him with a round of applause.
members of both Senate and National Assembly that may have arrived by now, our religious leaders, Brother Bishop, Brother Charles, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Shalom. Shalom. As we already congratulate Jesuit Akumani Center on proposing a working document towards a policy framework, and thanking those who have supported the process, like the Deepening Democracy Program, I want to assure brother Director that I'm legitimately in the house because my Oduma number is intact. Now, apparently and admittedly, I do not have many liberties to go into confession time as to what it used to be. I'll plunge directly into the brief presentation that I wish to make at this national gathering this year. There is a Ghanaian saying that today is an elder brother of tomorrow. So today we gather here as concerned citizens to deliberate on issues that affect humanity in this age and time, and not only in our country, but also all over the world. The most important and pressuring issue that has emerged over the last decades and is affecting the lives of everyone is climate change. It is the most global crisis we have that is threatening lives. A horrifying picture has been drawn from the latest UN report on the unprecedented extinction rate of species. The report finds that around 1 million animal and plant species are threatened with extinction, more than ever before in human history. The variability and irregularity of weather patterns in the world has become a threat to the existence of the human person. Unpredictable rainfall patterns and high temperatures have impacted on agriculture and consequently on food security and sovereignty. These climate-related shifts stem largely from global warming caused by human behavior and consumption, especially in the Western world, and CI environmental degradation through cutting of trees, encroachment of water catchment areas, and riparian land, which has led to dwindling levels of water in the ecosystem, resulting in drying of rivers and other sources of water. The reduction of water and pasture due to low rainfall and high temperatures has forcibly displaced people and their animals as they move from place to place in search for water and pasture, leading to natural resources conflicts, a fact that has been shared with us just a few minutes ago. The situation is further exacerbated by the emergence of hydropolitics over shared water ecosystems and struggle for control of natural resources in the country. This scenario calls for an intentional and collaborative effort to combat the effects of the climate crisis, including development of mitigation and adaptation strategies. Overall, It is estimated that the effects of climate change will reduce long-term growth in Kenya, affected by about 2.4% of GDP per annum. This in turn will mostly affect the poor, as they have fewer resources to adapt to the changing environment. Moreover, in addition to mitigation and adaptation on the ground, we need to urge the biggest producers of CO2 emissions, America, China, and generally the Western Hemisphere, to change their ways and adapt their consumption and lifestyle to the crisis we have at hand. In his second encyclical, Laudato Si, the Holy Father Pope Francis calls everyone to take, and we quote, a swift and unified global action, end of quote, on climate change. The Pope observes that climate change is a global problem with serious implications on environmental, social, economic, and political aspects of life. According to him, climate change represents one of the principal challenges facing humanity, as its unprecedented destruction of ecosystems, which will definitely have serious consequences for every living organism on planet Earth. Jesuit Hakimani Center, with the support from Deepening Democracy Program, have been carrying out the Climate Smart Water Governance Project since 2018 to address the issues of severe water scarcity caused by extreme climate variability and deficiencies in water governance in Kilifi and Garissa counties. The focus has been on advancement of sustainable community water seeking behavior at the local level, provision of technical assistance and sensitization to county water bodies to enhance equity in distribution and access and promotion of inter-county water sector collaboration. The results of this worthy project to be shared during this national conference have been the development of action plans by community members to increase household water reservoirs, to strengthen water use elasticity at the local level, the enhancement of rainwater harvesting, water reusage, environmental and water conservation has also been key outputs of the project. In both Kilifi and Garissa, through household water campaigns, the finding shows there has been a significant increase in the number of water storage containers at the household level. Women have formed self-help groups to support members to increase their water storage capacity and also install gutters for rainwater harvesting. Water conservation and reusage strategies have led to the reduced consumption, costs, and wastage of water at the household level. Kitchen gardening has seen the increase in food security and wealth creation among the youth and women in the community. Global Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, goal number 2, is to end hunger, achieve food security and improved nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. Food is such an essential commodity that builds and adds value to human dignity. hungry people cannot command purchasing power, respect, and dignity that is inherent in the condition of being human. Permit me also to give a little reflection on the quality and value-based education. The second issue that the research addressed is value-based education. Character formation and value education has been an area of contention between the parents, religious institutions, and schools, with each pushing the blame to the other as the behavior of children continues to deteriorate and the moral fabric of the society is destroyed. Although parents, religious leaders, and teachers generally understand the value of holistic formation of the child in order to bring up a well-rounded, productive, and mature person, little effort has been made to inculcate values into the education system. Economic growth is fundamentally caused by the accumulation of knowledge. Our major concern is to be able to answer the following questions. How does knowledge get transformed into an economic good? How does knowledge get transformed into an economic good? How does the knowledge structure move and spread? What qualities, values, and we dare add virtues, does our education propagate over time? Are we getting the superior quality and value ideation from our education, or our children are chasing wind for a life that is valueless? Admittedly, parents are the first teachers of the children and therefore have the responsibility of nurturing the children to embrace good morals and values. A value-based learning research by Jesuit Akimani Center has revealed that parents are concerned with the quality and quantity of time that they spend with their children. Findings from the study indicate that 83% of parents acknowledge that they do not spend quality time with their children and therefore miss the opportunity to nurture them towards being morally upright persons. The time that parents would like to spend with their children is taken up by the work they have to do in order to generate income to cater for the basic needs of their children. Parents in formal employment have to work for long hours in order to maintain their jobs and increase their levels of performance, which does not always translate to more income. Others have to be away from home due to work travel assignments. Those who carry out businesses put in a lot of time into their enterprises in order to keep afloat, given the precarious economic situation. They leave for work when children are asleep and return when children have retired to bed. reminding me of what I heard about our brothers Japanese. I hope I'm not spreading rumors. That Japanese fathers, children see their parents on photos because they leave very early for work before children wake up, and they return when children have retired. This is the situation now. Parents in rural areas who mostly engage in agricultural activities commence their tasks early and return home late and tired, and therefore miss the chance to spend quality time with their children. The gap left by parents in character formation of the children is filled in by peers who have great influence on the children, especially at the adolescent stage. Technological advancement has also emerged as one of the factors that influence the character formation of the children. The mobile phones with internet facilities allow children to access content without regulation and therefore gain knowledge, information, and values that influence their behavior in society. Parents have relegated their responsibilities to these gadgets due to lack of time, though the research findings reveal that many are worried, really worried about the content that their children access through the internet. This conference, dear brothers and sisters, should therefore spur a national dialogue on parenting and its impact on character formation and value-based education of our children. At the moment, many parents have to work for long hours in order to gain income to support the children, which leaves them with little time to spend with their children. As a panacea to this problem, most parents have relegated their parental responsibilities to computers, mobile phones, internet, daycare centers, and house helps. All these cannot teach values, cannot contribute to good character formation, and cannot and will not replace the parent. Our children have become addicted to computer games, television, the internet, and the social media to fill in the gap left by lack of parental love, care, and concern. Parents therefore need to find time in their busy schedules to spend quality time with their children. This would give them the opportunity to inculcate value-based education in their children, which is crucial, especially in our country, where every day we hear about corruption, misappropriation of funds, violence, robbery, killings, and murders. Value-based education will not only give our children a strong moral foundation, but will also give them the opportunity to transform the society and build a nation that cares for the well-being of everyone, especially the poor and marginalized in the society. The Sustainable Goal number 4 explains that by 2030, we should ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Let us all become good and faithful stewards of the gifts of nature granted to us by none else but by our Creator, and put into practice the values and virtues that make the world a better place for everyone. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Your Lordship, for that very strong keynote address. Are we agreeing that it was quite a strong one? Yes. And it has left us as parents as guilty as? Can we clap for him? Thank you very much, my Lord Bishop. We have been reminded of a few things that we need to do. I think some of them are very, very easy for us to take up. As I said earlier, it's not good for us to come to listen to the research findings, to listen to the inputs that we are given, and we are living here without taking any action home. I think we have been left to know even what our Pope Francis is calling on us to do, to take a unified global action. We have been left to know that we should end hunger, achieve food security. We need to improve on nutrition and also to promote sustainable agriculture. We need also to have value-based education. We need to have a holistic education to our children. And as parents, we are the first institution of learning to our children. And also, we need also to work together with teachers. We need to work together with the churches. We need to work together with the peers of our children and also community as a whole, even society. Alone, we cannot make it. We need qualities. We need also values and virtues. We also need to know that it is not only in Japan, as you said. Did you say Japan? Yes, I think Japan is already here with us. Huh? So once again, let us clap for our Lord Bishop. And with that, Brother Elders, I think I want to say that I'll finish the task you gave me. And thank you so much. Yeah.
Is that how we clap for ladies? All right. You know, there's an organization in here called WAV. They are watching over us. If we show any signs of violence against women, especially when they have done a good job and there's no clap for them, you will be in for it. Well, thank you very much, Beatrice. And the speeches that have been given. So Reverend Father Charles Kariuki, next time you baptize, can you baptize with fire so that you can spare water? And I also get a lot of encouragement, like, let's plant trees. Well, you know, trees, even if you don't plant, they can grow, isn't it? What do you think we should not do? Don't cut a tree. The rest, Mungu atajisort. Sindio? Yeah, so maybe it's time we began to say don't cut trees, you know. You know, one tree takes how many years to mature? Yeah, so if you cut one and plant 10, what have you done? You've not done much, isn't it? Yeah, so you will go to hell, isn't it? Yeah. I can't wait to see who is in hell. Any one of you candidates? No. But me, I'm a candidate. And Francis, because he also destroyed the environment with jerry cans flying down the hill and his own nature, bandages all over the body. That's not very kind. But let me remember one point that was raised, which really made me think twice as His Lordship was speaking. I remembered, and also the Reverend raised this point. You know, we are Nairobians, most of us. Is that true? Yeah, there are these, I'm sorry, is there anyone who sells water here? Because I might say something and then I don't leave the next minute. There are these guys we call vendors. You know vendors, water vendors. Water vendors, including those ones who have a right of way on the road. They're carrying a lot of water in Mkokoteni. You have to give way. I don't know whether they are licensed, but in Kenya, whether you have license or not, who cares, isn't it? Well, but the thing about vendors is that where do they get the water from? There is a certain guy with, who runs the taps. He has a spanner to turn the water on or off. And then there are these trucks called water boozers. You have seen them. Yeah, there are very many around. Ask yourself, where do they get water that we can't get that water direct to our homes? Why must water pass through a clean water boozer? And the smoke is bigger than the truck itself. Anyhow, and the way they are driven, clean water. Clean water, yeah. And by the way, it's not right even to buy water. Why should you buy water? If you go to Rome, you have an option. You can buy or you move to the nearest tap and drink your water. But here, the water. So how many of us buy water? Who buys water? Who misses water at times at home? Water rationing. Yeah, now I want to tell you that if you buy water, you are participating in crime. Oh, sorry, did I say that? Yeah. Because you are encouraging someone to close water so that at the right time, when you have no water, you must buy that water. Bwana asifiwe. Kweli. Why do you praise the Lord when you are buying water? No, I'm kidding. We have to buy water. Now, we've been talking about Jesuit Akimani, but we also have partners who are co-organizing this conference. May I invite Father Mbaru, Aminata, and Sam Kundi, please, to just step forward and in less than 30 seconds, introduce who you are. And Sam, and Father Mbaru, please, from Kwea, Dr. Father Mbaru and Aminata, if you can just come, say a word of welcome to the members, and after that, I'll ask the host of where we are here, Father Dr. Elias Omont, to also step up and welcome members to this conference. So, as they say, ladies first, please just quickly, a minute and less than a minute. Thank you.
Good morning, distinguished guest. My name is Aminata Christiana Koji. I'm a Sierra Leonean and a student of this very noble institution, IPSIL. I'm the founder of WAV, Women Action Against Violence. We have our flyers. We have our flyers around. We will distribute to you what our objectives, our mission and vision is all about for the sake of time. Thank you so very much for coming. And I want all the WAV invites to just wave their hands. And let me see the ladies in the house. Give them a round of applause. Thank you for turning up. And I wish you a wonderful time. Thank you.
God is good all the time. Good. My name is Samuel Mukundi, and I am a community development strategist. But here I am here as the national chairperson of KMCP Pax Romana, the Kenya movement of Catholic professionals. So I have so many members. If you are a member of Catholic professionals, registered or not registered, raise up your hand. Okay, so there are so many, clap for them. So there are so many. And we have been in this, and one of our priorities is to entrench the Catholic social teaching among our own people, wherever in the work milieu where we are, and even as members of church. And one of the lines where we need to entrench the Catholic social teaching is on climate governance. We have done that in the past. We'll put our banner here, and therefore I think we'll have enough time to interact. Therefore, welcome very much, and thank you for accepting the great work we are doing behind the curtains. Thank you very much.
So God is good, and all the time. So good morning to all of you. I am Father Peter Mbaro from the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, Center for Social Justice and Ethics, and we are here as co-partners organizing this conference, and we are here together with a great number of students, those who are doing Justice and Peace program, and those who are doing church management and leadership. And they are here to learn and also be part and parcel of the champions for climate change and good governance. May I therefore ask them just to raise up their hands, those who are from the Catholic University, students and staff members. There they are, let us appreciate them. So the Catholic University Center for Social Justice and Ethics is charged with the responsibility of propagating the social teaching of the church at academic level, and we run academic programs, but at the same time we also do community service and capacity building. Therefore, they are here also to participate in that way. And mine is therefore to tell you, most welcome. Let us move to make a change. Thank you.
Good morning once again. Good morning. I'm back to introduce myself. Initially, I was told not to introduce myself out of this time. My name is Arbiti Sodera, and I work for the Catholic Justice and Peace Commission, which is a commission at the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops. That is the arm that is charged for issues to do with peace and governance. I think in the House we have got CJPC commissioners, mainly from Nairobi and Machakos. Can you raise up your hands? I think we are the majority, yeah? Can you clap for us? Yeah, we are the majority because with us also we have got our chairman, Right Reverend Bishop John Obalawa, and also Bishop Alfred Rotich, who is also the bishop member of the Justice and Peace Commission. Can we clap for them also? Thank you.
God is good, and all the time. My name is Father Elias Opongo. I'm the director here of Ekima Institute of Peace Studies International Relations. Na wakaribisheni wote, karibuni. In this conference, I was also expecting our sister institution. We are also a Jesuit institution like Jesuit Akimani Center to talk about the traditional medicines. Mitishamba, mnajua mitishamba? One time I was in a bus going to Kisumu, and at Nakuru, one medicine man came in and said, do you know kiwiko? In Kiswahili, kiwiko is your elbow here. So he said, tazama kiwiko. Look at your elbow. If you have any pimples here, and everybody started looking at the kiwiko. If you have any pimples here, uko na minyo. And I have the medicine here. So, mine is not to advertise dawa ya minyo, but we'll be surprised how many people bought that medicine. Okay. Now, just to tell you briefly about Jesuit Ekima Institute of Peace Studies International Relations. Ekima University College is a constituent college of the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. We do run our master's program here in Peace Studies and International Relations for almost 20 years now. We are the first university college to start the peace program in this country. We're very happy to have graduated students from more than 20 to 25 countries, and we do welcome as many more as possible. We have short courses, certificate courses, whether it's human rights and governance, or leadership and management, or Catholic social teaching, but also the master's program that runs for 2 years, or up to 4 years if you have all the time, both for evening students and for day students. So just like to say you are very welcome. And also just to announce, to put in your diary for October 21st to 23rd, 2020, we'll be looking at the UN Resolution 1325. We'll have an international conference here. We always organize them every 2 years. This time it will be on women, peace, and security. And we hope to bring really delegates from all over the world, from New York to Nairobi to Akimani to Hekima. So tutawakaribisheni wote. So karibuni hapa Hekima Institute of Peace Studies and International Relations. Asante.
He didn't tell us whether after the advertisement in the bus he followed the guy to get his mobile phone number or whether he himself bought. Yeah. So thanks so much. Those are partners we work with, and all of you belong to one or another group. We also have several students from the University of Nairobi and other universities. So you are all very, very welcome. Of course, there comes a time you can't listen more than this, isn't it? Yeah, so I'm going to do two things. One is to discuss this next session, which is the breakout groups. And I ask the coordinators, the moderators, please to step forward so that we can know who you are, because after tea, we are going straight into the focus group. Now, I'm told the speaker has some guests from Cameroon, but he promises that as soon as he's done with them, he'll come. So if you can take your tea very quickly, get to the breakout sessions, so that as soon as he comes, we can assemble, have his speech, and then we continue the rest of the day. As I wait for the moderators to step forward so that we know who they are. May I also recognize the presence of Honorable Thomas Madegu. Please, if you can stand. He will be speaking with us in the afternoon. Dr. Lutalala, most of you may have seen him on screen. Please, can you stand? You've probably seen this big man arguing for public interest. Very seriously on different channels, and I hope you speak about water, because as our good friend here, young Muslim youth, will tell us, there's a lot of scarcity of water that even when by Quran constitution they're supposed to wash hands, when it's so dry there's no water. So I don't know how they oblige, but he will tell us. And we were somewhere in Garissa, and that really struck me that when there's no water, even religious rituals suffer. But Reverend Charles said that he will not baptize with water. Did you make that promise? I really want him to commit, isn't it? Yeah. All right. So whereas I'm waiting for the three, Irene Chege. You're stepping in for Irene. There's Machogu Ian Obari, and there's Dr. John Nyambega. You just stepped out. All right, please come. So can you guide us? The two of you can tell us what's upstream and down. You know, upstream and downstream discussions become very difficult. I like what Francis said. Upstream is where ladies were bathing, and downstream is where the men were doing. And then there was the lower downstream where the boys were also doing their swimming. And swimming is not the one you have here in your pools. It's where you beat the water with the hands and the legs hanging down so you don't get swept away. That was good swimming. So can we have an explanation of what's upstream dynamics of water management? What's that? What's adaptation and mitigation? So that from there you can choose which group you want to go to, and they will also tell you where to find your room. Dr. is there, Dr. John Nyambega. If you can also step forward. All right, please.
Okay, so group 1, upstream and downstream water access challenges. In this particular group, we'll be able to talk about social and environmental challenges in water access. We will also look at legal and political will challenges and social inclusion in the upstream and downstream, the challenges faced. So in that particular group, we will have, what's your name? Maria Goretti, who is stepping in for Irene Shege. So please stand so that the people who are interested in the social and environmental challenges, legal and political will challenges, as well as the social inclusion, this is the group, and you'll remain here at the ground floor. And in that group, you'll be able to get an expose from a J.C. Rakimani Center official, Dr. Alutalala Mkwana, Waziri Mzuri, and Honorable Beatrice Mitaro. For the second group, which is group 2, you will be MA1, which is on the second floor, up here. Here you will be able to look at the overview of water governance, funding of water projects, as well as the challenges of water supply and inclusivity in water management. Here, these dynamics of water management, rural and urban areas. You'll also have the chairperson of the Board of Trustees, Water Sector Fund, Mr. Patrick Okonya, Crispin Omondi Juma from the Ministry of Water, as well as the Kenya Water Partnerships, and not forgetting J.C. Rakimani Center. So for group 3, we will also go to the second floor, MA2. You'll find the placards posted on the doors, so you won't get lost. And either way, there is Mashogu Ian Obare, who will be on that group, group 3. He will be the moderator. So please don't lose his face yet. And the smile, yes. Group 3 is on climate change, adaptation and mitigation measures, forest cover and reclaiming natural balance. As I've mentioned, it's going to be MA2, second floor. It's on this side of the room, and MA1 is on the other side when you go to our second floor. Well, I know that quite well because this was my school. I'm an alumni of Hekima, and you're almost welcome to study here. Here, you'll be able to discuss an overview of climate change, adaptation and mitigation against climate change, as well as the Laudato Si. And this is more about stewardship. Oh God, what happened to English? Stewardship of creation. Oh, thank you. You're all alert. That's lovely. So here we'll have Professor Shem Wandiga from the University of Nairobi, who is an expert in that area. And so you don't want to miss there. As well as Michael Haduyu. I hope I've pronounced that better. Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. This is a consortium of, climate change actors or stakeholders in Africa and beyond. So you don't want to miss that also. And we'll have Father Emmanuel Mulu from the Kenya Movement of Catholic Professionals, who will then now deal with this stewardship of creation. There, please, Dr. Nyambega, so that they see you and they don't miss this. Yes, so this is the man to watch out for group 3. Just before I let you go for your tea break, I would like to mention that we are live on Istream Africa on the YouTube page. We are also live on the Jesuit Akimani Facebook page, and you can also tweet tag on climate change, climate smart H2O. We will project it once we are leaving the room. You're almost welcome, and please don't forget your moderators for group 1, 2, and 3. Welcome.
So now we will, in a short moment, pray for tea and then move. We will have guests in the afternoon. After the breakout sessions in the afternoon, we have a plenary session. Hope some of our guests will show up to, we already have some of our guests here, so we will have a very, very interactive session. For now, make sure you don't leave here the same way you came. Those breakout sessions are very important because you can raise questions, seek clarification, and interact the much you can, but also network. May I now ask we stand? I kindly ask His Lordship, Alfred Rotich, kindly to step forward and pray for tea.
Once again, you appreciate water in your tea. And then also, if you have milk in your tea, appreciate the milk and the process of producing milk in that cow and goats. And also water that also involves in the processing of sugar. The tea itself needs to grow up to 62 feet from the ground, needs water. Coffee also. And as you go to partake it, be grateful, be full of thanksgiving, and share with your brother and sister. Bless us, Lord, and these your gifts, which you are about to receive from your goodness through Christ our Lord. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
I forgot an important message that there are vouchers. You get a voucher as you serve. Just when you are about to serve, you will get a voucher. Okay, someone will be there to give you one. Thanks for bringing a whole gun. See